Edwin approached the weary soldier, seeking information on the recent events at the 5th defense line. The soldier recounted that, initially, the defense line appeared ill-prepared for any attack. However, when Hector launched his assault, the unpreparedness became apparent. Hector managed to breach the fortress, prompting Baron McCleary to issue a swift order for its destruction. The soldier, a hint of fear in his eyes, then revealed that a monstrous entity had appeared. Edwin, taken aback by this unexpected turn, listened intently as the soldier described the terrifying power of the creature. The monster had single-handedly taken down numerous soldiers in the blink of an eye. Even the elite Aura Knights of Hector were powerless against the beast, succumbing to a single strike. The revelation of this formidable adversary left Edwin astonished. As the soldier continued his account, it became clear that the appearance of the monster had turned the tide of the battle. Hector, despite his initial success in breaching the fortress, ultimately lost the confrontation. Edwin, grappling with this shocking information, realized that despite his meticulous year-long preparations, an unforeseen variable had disrupted the carefully laid plans. Roman Dimitry, Cairo's youngest ranker. Leaving the soldier behind, Edwin made his way through the aftermath of the battlefield. Thoughts swirled in his mind as he contemplated the implications of the monster's intervention. He knew that negotiations and strategic decisions were now critical to navigate this unexpected challenge. Back at the command center, Edwin summoned Jackson to provide a report on the current situation. Jackson conveyed that they had thoroughly checked the 5th defense line, only to find it abandoned by Cairo soldiers. Speculating that the soldiers might have withdrawn into the mountains, Jackson proposed forming a pursuit squad. However, Edwin, mindful of the changing tides and Hector's advantageous position, declined the suggestion. Acknowledging that negotiations with the Cairo kingdom were now imperative, Edwin decided to shift his focus. The time for a diplomatic resolution had come, considering Hector's control over the southern front. The decision was made to engage in talks and explore potential avenues for reconciliation. The narrative transitioned to the Cairo royal family palace, where King Daniel's frustration mirrored the tumultuous events on the battlefield. Unable to make decisions independently, King Daniel was beholden to the approval of powerful aristocrats to mobilize troops. The atmosphere in the palace was tense as they awaited the arrival of crucial figures. Marquis Benedict, arriving late with a smile despite the circumstances, explained that his horse carriage had encountered unexpected trouble. Following him were representatives from opposing factions, Count Denver from the Pro-Valhalla faction and Count Gregory from the Pro-Konos faction. Each faction held considerable influence in the political landscape, further complicating the decision-making process. In a tense meeting, Daniel delivered unsettling news to the assembled group. The Hector kingdom had boldly crossed Cairo's borders, launching an ambush on the unsuspecting camps. The consequences were dire, especially for the southern front, which now teetered on the brink of danger. Marquis, quick to respond, suggested sending immediate reinforcements to counter the unexpected assault. However, Daniel, wearing a stern expression, responded that he would assume there were prior agreements in place to dispatch reinforcements promptly. The gravity of the situation escalated as a soldier entered with distressing information. Hector had successfully taken control of Cairo's warp gate. Benedict, one of the attendees, could hardly believe this revelation. The command system, initially split into 4, had now morphed into a more significant issue, raising concerns about the kingdom's overall vulnerability. Frustration radiated from Daniel as he questioned the group about how they intended to take responsibility for the unfolding crisis. He expressed his belief that had he been granted decision-making authority from the start, the southern front wouldn't be facing such imminent peril. Blame was cast upon everyone seated at the table, with Daniel emphasizing that their collective actions had contributed to the current predicament. Amidst the heated discussion, a soldier burst into the room, announcing a magical communication from Hector. The group hastily convened for the call, during which Edwin, a key figure from Hector, disclosed Hector's demands. Compensation for the war was the price, with Edwin insisting on a gold payment equivalent to what they believed Cairo's southern front was worth. Benedict and Denver, representing opposing factions, voiced their frustration and questioned the reasonableness of Edwin's demand. They highlighted the unjust nature of the war and accused Edwin of orchestrating the conflict from the outset. The tension in the virtual meeting room was palpable as the leaders grappled with the ultimatum laid before them. Edwin, unwavering in his stance, imposed a strict 3-day deadline. Failure to meet the demands within this time frame would result in the absorption of Cairo's southern front into Hector's dominion. The severity of the consequence was underscored by Edwin's chilling warning against any attempts by Cairo to employ delaying tactics, threatening the lives of hostages from the southern front. As the magical call concluded, the complex state of affairs within Hector came to light. Economic challenges, including poor harvests and delayed payments to the Golden Bank, were depleting Hector's resources. Edwin, despite no longer occupying the starring role in Hector, contemplated the suffering of the commoners. Determined to protect his people, he embraced a sinister resolve, willing to become the devil of the era if that was what it took to secure the safety and well-being of those under his care. As tensions gripped the war room, Daniel faced the grim reality that the enemy now held control of the warp gate. In a resigned tone, he declared that their only recourse was to concede to the demands of the Hector kingdom. The reward sought by Hector seemed to be the only plausible path to minimize their losses. Benedict, however, voiced concerns, anticipating that Hector's financial demands would likely be exorbitant. He questioned if there were any alternatives available. An air of frustration permeated the room as Daniel, in an outburst of anger, implored others to share if they had any countermeasures. The response was an unsettling silence, prompting Daniel to reflect on the irony that despite the internal conflicts within Cairo, when confronted with a genuine crisis, they appeared utterly helpless. The gravity of the situation was not lost on him, as he reluctantly suggested accepting the terms laid out by the Hector kingdom. Count Denver, however, offered a dissenting opinion. He drew attention to Roman Dimitry, a key player stationed in the southern front. According to a recent report, Roman had successfully defended Cairo's fifth line of defense. Denver believed that if Roman could influence the course of the war, Cairo stood a fighting chance. Despite acknowledging Roman's skill, Daniel remained skeptical, emphasizing that while Roman, a 3-star swordsman in his 20s, was undoubtedly valuable, he alone couldn't alter the war's trajectory. Marquis Benedict sided with Daniel, underscoring the importance of Roman Dimitry as the future of the Cairo kingdom. Benedict argued for prioritizing the reduction of losses over risking the talents of the kingdom in futile endeavors. Denver, however, hinted that the true extent of Roman Dimitry's abilities might not be apparent to everyone. Information from the pro-Valhalla faction suggested Roman possessed talents exceeding those of a typical 4-star swordsman. Denver believed that Roman represented the variable capable of turning the tide of the war. Despite his conviction, he chose not to divulge this information to the gathered assembly. While refraining from imposing his viewpoint, Denver requested a mere 3 days to demonstrate the potential impact of Roman Dimitry. As the weight of the impending decision pressed on Daniel, he proposed a pragmatic approach. If there's no opposition in the southern front within the next 3 days, then they should consider accepting Hector's terms. This decision was not made lightly. Daniel understood the urgency of the situation and wanted to prepare for all possibilities. For Cairo Kingdom, a delicate balance between war and negotiation was being struck. The narrative then shifted to the first line of Cairo's defense, where Henry found himself facing an unexpected setback. The initial defense line had been taken out by Hector's forces. This shocking revelation prompted Henry to issue an immediate order for his soldiers to retreat to the mountains. In a moment of reflection, Henry contemplated the fleeting nature of fame, realizing that survival took precedence over any desire for renown. With urgency, Henry and his soldiers hastily made their way into the refuge of the mountains. It was in this moment of uncertainty that Chris, one of Roman's knights, emerged. He directed Henry and his soldiers to maintain silence, leading them through the mountainous terrain discreetly. Henry, puzzled by Chris's unexpected presence, questioned Roman's whereabouts. After all, Roman was supposed to be stationed at the rear. To Henry's surprise, they stumbled upon a hidden encampment constructed by Roman in the heart of the mountains. Chris explained that Roman, perceiving the collapse of the rear position, had strategically established this secret hideout. The revelation shed light on Roman's foresight and strategic thinking. Concerned about the rear position's collapse, Henry suggested immediate retreat and questioned the choice of building a hideout in this specific location. In response, Chris, with a serious demeanor, clarified that the war was far from over. The hideout served a strategic purpose, defending against potential enemy advances up the mountains. However, Chris issued a chilling warning. Should Henry align himself with Hector, Chris would not hesitate to end his life then and there. This revelation left Henry bewildered and fearful, contemplating the mysterious prowess of the Dimitry family. Henry inquires of Chris about Roman's whereabouts. It has been a considerable amount of time since Henry last saw Roman. Chris informs Henry that Roman is presently engaged in confronting the enemy on the front line. The scene transitioned to the front line, where the remaining Cairo soldiers engaged in a fierce struggle against Hector's forces. Brant, the front-line officer, recognized the gravity of the situation. Survival was paramount, not just for himself, but for the troops he led. In the heart of the battle, Brant, a soldier on the first line of defense, found himself grappling with a grim reality. The troops were dying mercilessly due to the baseless arrogance of their commander, Donald. The weight of this futile struggle led Brant to believe that the end was near. However, in a surprising twist, hope emerged in the form of Roman, who appeared seemingly out of nowhere to rescue the beleaguered knights. Caught in a moment of desperation, Roman found himself surrounded by Hector's soldiers. To their surprise, Roman skillfully took down every opponent that dared to challenge him. Brant, witnessing this display of prowess, couldn't help but be shocked and wondered about the identity of this mysterious savior who seemed to effortlessly defy the odds. Approaching Brant, Roman calmly introduced himself as a reserve from the fifth line of defense, Roman Dimitry. This revelation led Brant to speculate that Roman had been the one who suggested to Donald the idea of a strategic retreat. Contrary to this assumption, Roman had arrived on the scene not to abandon their post, but to save them from the encroaching Hector forces. Despite sustaining injuries, Brant, filled with gratitude, stood up and expressed his appreciation to Roman for his timely intervention. As Brant briefed Roman on the dire situation, he revealed that the first line of defense had already collapsed, and Hector's forces had successfully advanced to the second line. Brant, with a sense of foreboding, predicted that the second line wouldn't hold for long against the relentless onslaught of the Hector kingdom. In response to Brant's grim assessment, Roman queried whether Brant was suggesting surrender. While acknowledging Roman's exceptional swordsmanship, Brant argued that in a war between kingdoms, facing the might of the Hector kingdom was an impossible feat for a lone warrior like Roman. Undeterred, Roman delved into contemplation, analyzing the situation at hand. Roman observed that the actions of the Hector kingdom, setting ambushes and engaging in war, seemed incongruent with their current circumstances. In a moment of deduction, Roman proposed that Hector's true motive was to swiftly capture the southern front. Recognizing that Hector couldn't sustain a prolonged war, they aimed to create a crisis in the country and then resolve it through war. The complexity of Hector's motives became clearer to Roman. The goal was to take control of the southern front entirely, setting the stage for more favorable negotiations with Cairo's royal family. In Roman's analysis, Hector's actions were part of a calculated gamble, a strategic maneuver with the fate of an entire country hanging in the balance. As the narrative transitions to the second defense line in the southern front, the relentless siege orchestrated by Hector soldiers unfolds. Flares pierce the night sky, illuminating the tactical maneuvers aimed at breaching the fortress walls. Amidst this chaotic scene, the soldiers skillfully ambush their adversaries. In the midst of the siege, Edwin's mind is occupied by the intricacies of his plan. He ponders the significance of Baron McCleary's survival, recognizing it as a linchpin in the vulnerability of the fifth defense line. Yet, a shadow of uncertainty creeps in as he contemplates the strength of Roman Dimitry. Edwin questions whether Roman's might could single-handedly thwart Hector's forces. While acknowledging that Hector might face challenges against Roman, Edwin remains cautious, understanding that Hector is not a force easily subdued by an individual, no matter how formidable. However, the unfolding drama takes an unexpected turn as a messenger interrupts Edwin's contemplation. The soldier rushes in, bearing troubling news. Hector has lost contact with the first squadrons tasked with dealing with remnants of the enemy soldiers. The gravity of the situation deepens as it becomes evident that not only the first squadron but also the second and third squadrons are unresponsive. Edwin, taken aback by this sudden development, connects the ominous feeling he had sensed earlier to the actions of Roman Dimitry. Jackson, reporting to Edwin, sheds light on the sequence of events. After Hector successfully breached the first defense line, Jackson ordered the third squadron to handle the remnants of the enemy forces. However, communication with the third squadron was abruptly severed an hour ago, signaling a potential and sinister outcome. The enemy may have successfully eliminated them. The impact of this revelation is significant, with Edwin realizing the dire consequences of his worries turning into reality. The estimated loss for Hector stands at approximately 300 men. Edwin's certainty grows, and he identifies Roman Dimitry as the mastermind behind these attacks. The revelation strikes a chord with Edwin. Roman, instead of opting for an escape over the mountain, has chosen to remain on the southern front, confronting Edwin directly. Edwin, cognizant of the potential threat Roman poses, communicates the urgency of addressing this unexpected variable to Jackson. Leaving Roman unchecked, Edwin asserts, will undoubtedly lead to further complications. Jackson, however, downplays Roman's significance, dismissing him as a trivial variable. He contends that Hector's overarching objective, the success of their siege, should not be significantly impacted by the attention diverted towards Roman Dimitry. In the intricate dance of war, Edwin's priorities diverged from Hector's overarching plan. While the success of Hector's strategy relied on the destruction of the remaining defense camps, Edwin's focus sharpened on the elimination of Roman Dimitry, the enigmatic factor disrupting his meticulous plans. With a sinister look, Edwin conveyed his altered priorities to Jackson, instructing an immediate retreat for the soldiers positioned on the second defense line. Jackson, perplexed by Edwin's unwavering fixation on Roman Dimitry, questioned the depth of this obsession. The commander's decision seemed to defy the conventional wisdom of prioritizing the conquest of defense lines over singular adversaries. As night fell, the collective might of Hector's soldiers gathered around the mountains. Edwin's conviction that Roman Dimitry lurked within this rugged terrain stemmed from countless hours spent scrutinizing plans over the past year. It was an instinctive certainty, a gut feeling that Roman Dimitry posed a significant threat. Addressing the assembled soldiers, Edwin acknowledged the thoughts racing through their minds. While dealing with the conquered defense lines might be a priority for the soldiers, Edwin stressed that the worst-case scenario lay in the existence of Roman Dimitry. The unexpected variables Roman introduced to Hector's meticulously crafted plans made him the chief concern in Edwin's eyes. Jackson, privy to Edwin's strategic insights, recognized that there was always a method to Edwin's decisions. The soldiers, loyal to their commander, echoed their acceptance of Edwin's orders with resounding shouts. Edwin, seizing the moment, declared it was time to hunt down the Cairo soldiers. However, the vastness of the southern mountain range posed a challenge. Edwin feared that if Hector's soldiers scoured the entire area, the enemy could slip away unnoticed. Edwin's strategic acumen came into play as he decided to adopt a methodical approach. Rather than searching the entire expanse at once, he chose to deploy Hector's forces from the base of the mountain, gradually closing in toward the summit. This method aimed to prevent the enemy from slipping through the cracks, ensuring a systematic sweep of the terrain. As the soldiers began ascending the mountains, commanders emphasized the importance of blowing the whistle upon detecting any signs of the enemy. The strategy was clear: corner the enemy and minimize losses for Hector. The soldiers, armed with determination and a sense of purpose, scanned the surroundings with heightened vigilance, fully aware of the gravity of their mission. In the blink of an eye, a Hector soldier vanished, as if swept away by the wind. His comrades, seemingly undisturbed, failed to notice anything suspicious. However, the normalcy shattered when the realization struck. All the other Hector soldiers had disappeared, leaving one lone soldier bewildered and alone. As he fumbled to blow the whistle, an unseen force struck from behind, and Roman emerged, swiftly incapacitating the soldier before the whistle could sound. Roman, in that fleeting moment, contemplated the unexpected turn of events. He had anticipated gaining a significant advantage during Hector's assault on the defense camp. Yet, Hector's decision to forsake the second defense line solely to impede Roman's progress showcased a level of boldness that caught him off guard. Roman couldn't help but marvel at the strategic prowess of Hector's commander, recognizing an extraordinary mind at work. The Hector soldiers, now aware of the enemy's presence, began searching for their missing comrades. Their objective was clear: cut off any potential retreat routes and drive the enemy soldiers into a corner. However, Roman, with a sinister glare and unmatched swiftness, disrupted their plans by taking down the soldier commander who was orchestrating the troops. In the aftermath of this ambush, Roman's expression transformed into one of controlled chaos. Memories flooded back to a time long ago, to his previous life as Baek Joong, one of the Heavenly Demon's 12 sons. These sons endured the harshest environments and relentless trials merely because of their lineage. Baek Joong, in his former life, undertook a mission to pursue a low-ranking demonic follower causing chaos within the cult. Successfully completing the mission in a mere 3 days, Baek Joong soon found himself facing even more formidable challenges. Confronted with an opponent seemingly insurmountable, Baek Joong sought an alternative approach. His search led him to the reports of the demonic cult, unveiling the martial arts of the Night King. Once a humble thief, the Night King mastered the art of utilizing darkness, rising to prominence as the infamous Great Thief. The Night King, despite meeting a grisly end for his covetous sins according to the Heavenly Demon's report, left an enduring legacy in the annals of Mirim's history. Intrigued by the Night King's techniques, Baek Joong delved into their intricacies, employing every available means to execute missions with precision. A year later, having dispatched 38 martial masters, Baek Joong earned the ominous moniker of the Shadow Phantom within the demonic cult, embodying the essence of darkness itself. Fast forward to the present, where Hector soldiers found themselves engulfed in darkness, unable to discern their adversaries' whereabouts. The Aura Knights, realizing the peril, ordered a strategic retreat. However, Roman, with a lethal gaze and a determination to make Hector rue their intrusion into the mountains, harnessed the Night King's techniques. Swiftly, he took down the leader of the first squadron, casting shadows upon the Hector soldiers. Amid the surreal chaos, the Hector soldiers struggled to comprehend the unfolding events. One soldier, sensing the gravity of the situation, felt compelled to urgently report the phantom presence that posed a severe threat to everyone. Utilizing a magical communication device, he relayed the message to his commander, only to be astonished as Roman, the embodiment of stealth, sat right behind him on a tree, poised for a strike.